It's time to rev up for the Aetherdrift Prerelease. Happening this weekend, what should you expect out of pre-release and how should you build your pre-release deck? Let me fill you in. Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast. Kicking off this weekend, you'll be able to play in pre-release events for Aetherdrift at your local game store. If you've never played a pre-release before, it's one of my favorite Magic events. Everybody is opening up the cards in the set for the first time, and it really feels like one big celebration. Whether you're a veteran racer or a rookie to the racetrack, they're a blast, and for everybody. So reach out to your local game store, find out the details of their pre-release, and pre-register. When you sit down at the event, you'll be handed a pre-release pack. What's inside? All the materials needed to build a deck, and namely 6 booster packs of Aetherdrift. Be sure to subscribe and come back tomorrow, and I'll walk you through exactly how I use those to build a deck, start to finish. But for now, to get you ready, let's cover some of what you want to be looking for in those packs and good deck building tips. You'll be building a 40-card deck and picking out about 23 creatures and spells to play. You can add as many basic lands as you want, the store will have them on hand, and usually you want about 17 total lands. To whittle it down, you're going to want to hone in on 2 colors. You can sometimes splash a third by playing a couple strong cards for later in the game and a few lands of those colors, but I'd really stick to 2 if you can. The cards I often look for in sealed deck the most are removal that can eliminate your opponent's creatures, evasion creatures with abilities like flying, and strong cards in bottom rares. I sort my cards by color and look through them to see how the colors stack up. Once you start narrowing the colors down, you'll want to check in on your mana curve. This is trying to make sure you have cards to play at all phases of the game. If everything is cheap to cast, you'll run out of things to do and get outclassed in the late game. But if everything is expensive to cast, you'll have nothing to do early. You want a good mix, a curve. I'll note that in this set, because of the exhaust mechanic, it does give you more to do in the late game, so you can get away with more cards cheaper on your mana curve than normal if they have exhaust abilities. A well-built pre-release deck usually has a solid distribution of at least 4 2-mana creatures, 4 3-mana creatures, 3 4-mana creatures, and at least 2 creatures at 5 or more mana. You can go higher on each of those as long as you aren't dropping lower anywhere else. Now, here's a bit that a lot of people don't know and will be a huge help to your deck building. As you're sorting your cards by mana curve, you'll want to separate your creatures and other cards you're going to play on curve and your non-creatures. For example, you'll play Greenbelt Guardian on turn 2, but it's unlikely you're going to play Silken Strength on turn 2, so they should be in different stacks. If you count Silken Strength as a 2-drop, that's going to be very misleading when you're looking at your mana curve. So what I do is make a curve of cards I'm going to play on that turn. Mostly creatures, but also sometimes artifacts and enchantments, and put those on top, and then below I put the spells I usually won't be playing that turn. Try it out, it can make a huge difference. Okay, so you have an idea of what to look for and how to lay it out on the table. But how do you know what you want to find in picking your colors? Well, one thing that we built into our sets are 10 2-color combinations, each with its own theme. You don't have to play that strategy if you're in that color pair, but it's a good direction to keep your eye out for as you build your deck. And for a fun little bit of flavor that can help you find the right cards, in Aetherdrift, each 2-color pair is a racing team too, so stay tuned for those as well. Let's dig in and break it all down. We'll kick things off with Blue-White, the Guidelight Voyagers. As is appropriate for these robots, this is an artifact-focused strategy. You'll want to go wide with your artifacts to maximize their bonuses and exterminate your opponent in short order. And the pair of Signpost uncommons, Guidelight Pathmaker and Voyage Home, both point right at the artifact theme and are pickups to look for in this strategy. While Blue-White focuses more on going wide and winning fast, with Blue-Black, ironically named the Speed Demons, you try and take the artifact tools to go a little longer with an artifact control strategy. You can slowly claw back life with cards like Packed Doll Terror and find just the right cards with Wreckage Wickerfolk while you set up for the long game. The 2 signposts here are a solid vehicle and a spell which even drains them for all your artifacts directly. But enough about artifacts. Let's kick things up with Red-Black Max Speed Aggro. The End Riders are here to drive your opponents into the ground. Red-Black loves attacking and making opponents lose life, so it's pretty apt to be able to get max speed up fast. And once you do, your bonuses will turn on. But if you need help getting there, Gastel Thrillseeker basically ensures you start at 2 speed on the second turn, and Apocalypse Runner ensures your creatures are getting through. Are you exhausted yet? Well, you might be after Red-Green Exhaust midrange. The Goblin Rocketeers are here, and this strategy wants to hit its early creature curve into the mid-game, then use its mana to activate those exhaust abilities. phase. You may be out of cards, but not out of action. Boom Scholar and Rocketeer Boost Buggy both have exhaust themselves, giving you outputs to use, and the mana to help use your exhaust abilities, too. You've seen vehicles, you've seen mounts, but how about both in one place? The white-green archetype featuring the Alacrian Quick Beasts is about both kinds of transportation modes you'll find in Aetherdrift. Use your pilot tokens and cards that create them to crew or mount your other cards and outsize your opponent in the mid-game. And speaking about sizing, Legoran and Veteran Beast Rider keep your creatures buff, and even buff themselves. I mean, a 3-mana 3/4 with double upside? That's a strong uncommon. White-Black and the Champions of Amonkhet also want to hit max speed, but these zombies are happy to take their time in max speed grind. You'll slowly attrition and grind opponents out once you're at max speed, and cards like Risen Necro Regent come online to promise that inevitability is on your side. And if you're trading off a bunch of creatures in the process, well, how about Dune Drifter to bring one of them back, or at least Embalmed Descendant to drain them for one each time. Blue-red is one of my favorite archetypes to play, and that's the Keel Haulers with their discard aggro strategy. Get out some creatures that reward you for discarding cards, and then, well, find ways to discard. Cycling in the set gives you plenty of built-in options, but there are other cards that can do it well too, like the Signpost Boosted Sleep to ensure you can just keep going, and Broadside Barrage for the removal spell that gives you a little bonus too. Black-green and its Speed Brood is an archetype you've certainly seen before, Graveyard. Fill the yard and then harness it for power, whether it's just exiling a Mutant Surveyor to draw a card if you hit max speed, to being huge like a late-game Ooze Patrol. The games with black-green can go long as you're slowly trying to grind out the game, so Broodheart Engine can help you always find what you're looking for, and Thundering Broodwagon is there to help close out that game. Green-White was the mid-range version, but Red-White and their Cloudspire Racers is the aggressive version, with mounts and vehicles aggro. In a pretty common move for Red-White, you'll be trying to attack your opponent down in short order. Cloudspire Coordinator will give you a supply of pilots to keep everything running smoothly, while Cloudspire Sky Cycle can make sure your creatures hit hard. Okay, so we're at green-blue. The big question, is it ramp this time around? Well, it's exhaust. Ramp. Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. The Aether Rangers are here to help you build up your mana and then funnel it into big green exhaust abilities like on Hazard of the Dunes. And when you do, hopefully you'll be getting a bonus token off your Ranger's Aether Hive too. And when you need to ramp early game, Sky Serpent Seeker is just the card you want. Now those are all 10 archetypes. Which do you most hope to open at the pre-release? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll be back tomorrow with that sealed deck build to do a little trial run around the racetrack. But until then, have fun preparing for your race. You got this. Cling to Dust, for example, becomes 1 mana to draw 2 cards with Escape. And when you escape it, you even draw a 3rd card. But my favorites are these innocuous 1 mana artifacts: Relic of Progenitus, Scrabbling Claws, and Ghost Vacuum. As long as cards are in graveyards, these each turn into 1 mana